Coming up on this week's FAS TV, we return to Potatoes in Practice, hosted by the James Hutton Institute. The day is an opportunity for farmers to see a variety of demonstrations and trade exhibits, and gain knowledge from experts in the potato industry.
We're here at Potatoes in Practice today, which is a great annual event where industry, science, agronomists, we're all gathered to look at the issues facing the potato industry, partners with SRUC, the Hutton and Agri. And there's, as you can see, lots of field plots to look at, lots of machinery, new innovations, and some great seminars. So people coming here to learn about some of the key issues facing the industry. PCN virus, of course, has been really a huge issue over the last couple of years. And then a final session on blight and fungicide stewardship. So a huge amount to get round today, but a really lovely example of everybody gathering and working together.
So today I've joined other speakers to talk mainly around collaboration for the industry. So as GB Potatoes, we're fledgling. We're only 2 years old, 4 years inception, but only 2 years old in operation. We need to come together as an industry. So today is very much thinking about, illustrating what we're doing already, so the projects we're involved in and the work that's underway already, the need for more members. So that gets our funds together, that gives a greater sort of view from what industry needs. We were reminded by Ian Toth earlier on that industry has a lot of priorities, and I think we have to be really careful as regards what we focus on and how we promote our industry. Our industry is changing, and I think we need to change with it. We've got a new government, so we've got to think about engaging with regulators, policymakers. I think it's really important that we get a seat at the table. Agriculture and potatoes as a sector within agriculture is an important sector. I don't think we always get the best place at that table. So coordinating the industry to act together and be the best we can. So I fully understand that with current economic pressures, the challenges of growing the crop of potatoes, a lot of people are focused at home growing their own crops. I understand that. But we also need to come out as an industry, engage things like this. So Potatoes in Practice is a great opportunity for us to come together. No one person has a monopoly on good ideas. So what's my message to the industry? Come and talk to us. Join us as GB Potatoes. Share your thoughts on what we need for the future.
So today I was talking about aphid vectored viruses in potatoes, and particularly from both sides really. I work with seed growers and ware growers. We were talking about routes of transmission and also how we can try and mitigate the routes of transmission of these viruses. The key things really, there are different types of viruses within potatoes. Key things were implications on ware crops. That might be implications in terms of yield, but probably more importantly quality attributes. And the viruses, especially if there's mixtures of viruses in specific varieties, you can get some quite dramatic quality issues from growth cracking, tuber deformities, and also other effects as well, and skin blemishes as well. So these will all have an impact on the ware grower side. There's two sides really. The ware grower side, I would say, you've got to look to source the seed from regular, try and keep going back to the same people and get a good relationship with your seed supplier. Buy seed of the highest quality that you can in terms of virus, which would be the lowest generations and the highest certification standards. As a seed grower, similar things in terms of seed stock. That was another aspect I talked about. The level of virus within your seed stock is probably the biggest parameter in terms of producing a low virus seed stock to sell on for the next year or to utilise yourself. So that was one of the key drivers. One message I think is for both ware and seed would be know your seed stock. Get as much information about the seed stock that you can, either certification standards or even better tuber index testing that has provided the samples taken in an appropriate way to get a good assessment of the seed stock. If you've got the information, You can work together with your agronomist to utilise that information within your crop.
Glyphosate drift can cause a big problem in potato crops, so we want to basically remind growers to be careful, to make sure that they adjust boom height, speed, and just essentially, to be careful for drift issues. Make sure and speak to your neighbours, speak to your agronomists, your contractors, and just make sure everyone is singing off the same hymn sheet. What we don't want is windy days like this, people going out close to potato crops and doing what they shouldn't. So it's just about being careful and doing the right things. We've got different rates of glyphosate damage to show the subtle effects as well, because glyphosate doesn't always show in the first instance, it's in the secondary tubers, so either cracking if it's really bad in the primary infection or the primary drift, but if you get herbicide damage, it can often be seen in the second progeny crop, and that's where the real damage comes, because if you try to sell the crop, then you have issues on the back of it. So some action points for neighbouring farmers and other people is obviously check wind direction, make sure that your boom height and speed is correct, make sure and clean out sprayers thoroughly before applying any glyphosate, and if possible use anti-drift nozzles, and also keep good spray records will also help.
Today I've been presenting the results of the Fight Against Blight campaign for 2024. So Fight Against Blight, FAB, we call ourselves. So we have the Fight Against Blight team, the FAB team work in the James Hutton Institute. And we've been tracking populations of the pathogen, Phytophthora infestans, difficult to spell, but it's the cause of potato late blight. And the reasons we've been doing that is because there are great concerns of new pathogen lineages which overcome host resistance or overcome fungicides. So clearly late blight is it's a very serious disease for potato growers, and if late blight gets out of control, then you can get complete crop loss and tuber infection very rapidly. So I've been telling the growers and the rest of the industry about the results of the fight against blight. Yeah, I mean, the results of the work from this year have actually been very good news. As I was saying in the seminar, no news in this case is good news. The news is that we've actually prevented problems by alerting the industry and making sure that they're using fungicide regimes which can counter the spread of new lineages. We know there are very significant problematic lineages coming in from the continent with a resistance to two of the major fungicides which are used for managing blight. So today I've been telling the growers that to continue the spray regimes they're doing at the moment, which are mixing and alternating fungicides to make sure that we're using a range of active ingredients, so we're not applying selection pressure for any particular strain to develop within the industry and within the crops, the UK crops. Well, hopefully I've presented the idea that it's very important that we understand the pathogen populations. If the pathogen population changes and we don't realise that and don't respond to it, then we can lose control. So I suppose continue to fund the work for next year, if that's not too much of a blatant touting for business. No, but it's to continue the work and continue spraying the regimes, following the fungicide resistance action group guidelines. That's really a key message.
The trial site at SRUC Auckland Grove Estate is very favourable for blight development because basically it's in a valley which collects lots of humidity. There's lots of rain in the Ayrshire, as most people know, and it's just ideal for the development of blight. So we get good results, year in, year out. Over the years, if you look over an extended period, quite a few different sponsors. There've been commercial companies who obviously want to test their blight control products. Also Scottish Government, also projects funded by consortia, a whole host of people actually, and anybody who's interested in blight control. And obviously, given that blight is such an important disease for potatoes, then there are lots of people with an interest in controlling it. So, we've done fungicide evaluation, we've also done integrated control experiments, we've done resistance management, blight fungicide resistance management experiments as well. So quite a range, but it's all very applied, very useful for the industry and for farmers. We do lots of things, so there will be lots of messages, but it's difficult when things are going full pelt in terms of the trial activities to talk about all of them. That will come later at SACAP meetings, etc. What I wanted to talk about today was some curative work that we've been doing with blight fungicides, and it's very interesting because it's changed people's perception of what curative fungicides can do. The established idea for years was that these curative fungicides would only be effective for 24 hours, at the most 48 hours. So in other words, if there was a high-risk period infection of the crop, then unless you applied the curative within 2 days, it wasn't going to do anything. Now, that was true from the old methodology used to test this, which was basically selecting a temperature in a growth room, having a constant temperature, and inoculating the plants, putting on the fungicide, and determining how long after infection the fungicides were effective. Now, that's fine. It tells you the relative curative activities of different products, but what it doesn't tell you is how long the curative window actually is in practice. So we developed a method at SRUC where we actually do shift the experiment to the field. And the big advantage is we're actually spraying a proper crop canopy rather than individual leaflets. There's also some movement of the fungicides within the plant, so if they're systemic, that's reflected in the results. But the key thing is the temperature, because obviously curative activity is related to temperature. What a curative fungicide is doing is, obviously after infection, the pathogen is growing in the plant, and unless the fungicide can get into the plant, it's not going to do anything. Now, the warmer the temperature, the faster the pathogen grows, and what that means is that it reaches a point where it's no longer curable. Now, it was just assumed that was 24, 48 hours, but the experiments that we've done in multiple years, since about 2018, shows that we can actually treat plants with a curative fungicide up to 4 days after infection. And by infection in these experiments, I mean with the most aggressive genotype that we have at the moment, and also a very high dose of fungicide and a very susceptible variety. So even with that scenario, we are actually able to get 60-70% efficacy from the best curative fungicides, and that's quite a change, because the old way of thinking, which a lot of people still have, is that 2 days max, whereas we're showing under Scottish conditions, typical Scottish summer conditions, that can be 3 days, 4 days, and who knows, might be even slightly longer, but we don't know that. We've only tested up to 4 days.
I was talking about different projects that we do as part of Beehive Innovations, but in a more wider spectrum. I was also talking about all the different types of research and innovation that are right now around the potato world or potato industry. I think the key things I would like people to take away is that there is a lot of innovation happening right now in the potato industry, that there are things in artificial intelligence, things like computer vision and machine learning that can really help, and that are already helping them make sure that they have a more productive and a more successful harvest. The one message I would like to put out there is that there is a lot of innovation happening, a lot of possibilities and new ways of solving problems that they have, but that we need growers to come up with the problems or to be honest with the problems that they're currently having, so we can make sure that we can tailor solutions that is going to really make a difference, because that's what we want at the end of the day. We don't want a technology that is sitting down in a lab and nobody's using. We want a technology that can really help them and make them keep growing potatoes for as much time as possible. it's not only for growers to come in and tell you things. I think there is a lot of opportunity here for people with the skills within computer science and biotechnology, bioinformatics, and that there are really cool problems right now in the area, and that they should be, coming into this field as well. There is a lot that we can help with.